And joining us once again is award-winning China analyst and human rights investigator Ethan Gutmann. He's the author of Losing the New China and the Slaughter, Mass Killings, Organ Harvesting, and China's Secret Solution to Its Dissident Problem. He's also a research fellow in China Studies at the Victims of Communism Memorial Foundation. Ethan, thanks again for joining us from Heathrow Airport, I guess.
Yes, that's right. Thank you. It's great to be back on the show.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Well, so you were in London for the Uyghur Tribunal, which just wrapped up. Why don't you give us a rundown of what the tribunal was, what it hoped to achieve?
Well, I don't know if I'm the best person to do that because I'm never going to be a lawyer or a legal type or have a legal mind, not in this lifetime anyways. But I would say that it was basically, it's a people's tribunal. The first one in some years anyways, I think about 10 or 15, was held, called informally the China Tribunal, which was really about organ harvesting of Falun Gong, Tibetans, Uyghurs, and House Christians, but mainly about Falun Gong. And so it was a very, very focused event. They went on for quite some time. And they're very similar setup. The Uyghurs got the idea of asking for the same idea, which was more about, in this case, they're trying to absolutely establish whether it's genocide or not. I suppose that's the structure that it's based around. I don't want to speak for Sir Geoffrey Nice or for the panel itself. What's interesting about it is the contrast between the two, I guess, to me, because I was here for the China Tribunal as well. And this time the panel was at least twice as big. All right, so it was a very large panel. It really did maximize on fact witnesses, a lot of fact witnesses and experts. And I would have to say that, well, it wasn't as focused, of course, as the China Tribunal, which was more focused around function, the function of organ harvesting. This was focused on many things, many signs of persecution, different forms of persecution that the Uyghurs are undergoing. But it was an incredible wrap-up of expertise, okay? So it had fact witnesses or refugees talking about their experiences, and it also had every major expert in the world today. Just one last point. What I think what made that a little easier was everybody's kind of gotten used to the fact that you could do things a lot more remotely than we were doing them before. So the China Tribunal was done in the pre-pandemic days when it was, you really preferred if somebody showed up in person in London, like me, who showed up. But this time they were able to really bring in experts from all around the world on this issue.
You found the silver lining to the pandemic.
Yes.
We don't want people around us anymore.
So okay. So is the stuff happening to the Uyghurs, is it conclusively genocide, or is it just, giving people more employment for zero wages?
I think I'm not qualified to answer that question. And I honestly believe that the genocide discussion becomes a little bit sterile at a certain point.
What does that mean?
It's a word. It's a kind of invented word. There are different forms of genocide. We sometimes refer to crimes against humanity. For example, they did not declare organ harvesting genocide, which was disappointing to some people, but it wasn't particularly to me because all the evidence was there. To me, it meant that I didn't have to write the textbook anymore because that China Tribunal just did. And when they came out with that book, it was the best and most authoritative discussion of organ harvesting that's ever been put out in print.
And the China Tribunal basically put to rest the idea that organ harvesting really was happening in China. Do you think this Uyghur Tribunal will put a rest to whether or not this is genocide?
Let me be really frank here. I think the Uyghurs are going to be a little disappointed on two counts, the Uyghur activists who were attending, and of course there were a lot of them. One is that they sort of thought this is kind of an official tribunal. It's not. It's a people's tribunal. All right, it's something that was set up initially, I believe. I may be getting this wrong, but Sir Geoffrey Nice set the first one up during the Vietnam War, and it was a way of outing an issue, getting it out there, examining it, and so forth. So I think they're going to be a bit disappointed by the results. Having said that, that there are no results, and there's no legal standing, or it can't directly impact China. That's one thing. The second thing is that I tend to doubt they're going to say this is outright genocide. I may be wrong about that. It's kind of one of those things you could go down to the betting shops here, and they really ought to have a bet on this thing out there.
So what are the odds?
Well, I'd say about 33% they're going to say it's genocide, and 66% they're not. That was not the result of the questions. Most of the questions, these things take on their own life. Okay. And this did too. There were a lot of experts there, and sort of they started gathering the different threads of things or looking into different issues. And the people on the panel are not Uyghur experts or areas of the experts in that area of the world. But they were learning. They were like students, like very, very intelligent students who were learning and sort of gathering information. Their questions got better and better. I think the Uyghurs are going to feel some disappointment on both of those counts, though. That is my prediction.
So if a people's tribunal can't force China to do anything or force any government to really do anything, what is the function? What's the purpose?
Well, again, I'm probably the wrong person to answer that question. If you had David Matus here, he would be able to answer that very directly. But let me take a stab at it. Let's say China gets into a war. Let's say it doesn't go well. That war doesn't go well. Doesn't work very well for Chinese. And let's say the leadership is under some pressure afterwards. Let's also say that something like the International Criminal Court steps in and starts investigating all this stuff. Genocide. Accusations of genocide. Is it possible at that time that this will form the bedrock? This will form the foundation? I think it is. Okay, I think that's where this really comes in, because it's clearly not biased. Now, it's true you didn't have the Chinese there to defend themselves, but they were asked to be there every day. And every day, Sir Geoffrey Nice says, do we have any response from any Chinese entities? Have they responded to our invitations? And so forth. They did not.
That's very rude.
Well, they did respond, actually. They responded by calling it a pack of lies and a bunch of saying that most of the experts were just actors. Well, actually, the refugees or the fact witnesses were actors, paid actors, and people like myself were, I don't know, what's the words? God, you guys are so much more familiar. Come on,
CIA? Were you CIA?
No, nothing like that. It's the more those communist words they like so much. It's sort of running dog style.
Running dogs of the American imperialists.
Not quite that, but you know what I mean. They use those terms. I don't even remember them. They come into my head and they go out. They're so vacuous. They did say that we were sort of promoting a Cold War and this kind of thing. So there was a lot of attacks that came out on several days, I think, if I'm not mistaken, in the press on the tribunal. Which did indicate that, I guess, we've drawn some blood, or just Sir Geoffrey, rather not we, but Sir Geoffrey Nice and the panel has drawn blood.
So basically, these people's tribunals could one day form the basis of maybe something equivalent to a Nuremberg trial for the Chinese Communist Party.
I that's been my theory for this entire year, is that you have to concentrate on what the Chinese leadership actually fears. Mm-hmm. And their fears appear to me to be about this kind
Spiders.
Well, yes, about they have nightmares about the Nuremberg trials, and that's why I think, even though I don't fall asleep thinking, "Oh gosh, isn't it great that the International Criminal Court is on the case and I can fall asleep tonight," I don't do that. But apparently, the Chinese sleep badly because the International Criminal Court is out there. So maybe this will form the basis for something bigger. And there's another side effect, which is in May, Congress has been kind of passing these resolutions saying this is genocide, and the State Department of Pompeo, of course, declared it was genocide, and Blinken agreed. Secretary of State Blinken agreed. They don't have a lot of teeth to them. The truth is they weren't very well examined. I mean, these were done after a hearing or two. This is much more elaborate procedure that they're doing. And so I believe that it makes it easier for a lot of countries to move on this issue now.